course, on Wednesday, everyone knows that President Donald Trump was impeached by the House. But if you watch Fox News, you may get a different idea. So this latest attempt to coddle Donald Trump's ego to make sure he isn't, too freaked out by the whole process, it all was born off of a Bloomberg op-ed by Harvard Law professor Noah Feldman. A part of that whole thing, one of the things he said was impeachment, as contemplated by the Constitution, does not consist merely of the vote by the House, but of the process of sending the articles to the Senate for trial, which we all know. He goes on to say, if the House does not communicate its impeachment to the Senate, it hasn't actually impeached the president. If the articles are not transmitted, Trump could legitimately say he wasn't truly impeached at all. So he's getting this because, of course, let's go to the video of Nancy Pelosi the night of, right after impeachment articles were passed, both were passed, and she had this to say.
We have legislation approved by the Rules Committee that will enable us to decide how we will send over the articles of impeachment. We cannot name managers until we see what the process is on the Senate side, and I would hope that that will be soon, as we did with our legislation, our Resolution 660, to describe what the process would be. So far, we haven't seen anything that looks fair to us, so hopefully it will be fairer.
So because of her delay and wanting to make sure things were going to be going a certain way based off of what Majority Leader Mitch McConnell had to say, this op-ed was written by Noah Feldman, and Fox News jumped right on it as their latest approach to try and figure out a way to discredit this entire process. Let's go to Laura Ingraham and see what she had to say.
I think one can make a fairly decent argument that the president wasn't really even impeached, at least not yet. Now, why am I saying that? Because Nancy and the gang ran out of town without even naming impeachment managers and without sending the articles to the Senate. You know who else is saying this? The Democrats' own lawyer. Again, I repeat, this is from their lawyer. Last night, the Angle explained that Pelosi's stall was just the latest sign that the Democrats were never really serious about any of this. In the end, it was a pretend impeachment.
A pretend impeachment, that was Thursday night. So of course, this morning, Fox and Friends has their opportunity. Let's see what they had to say. It might be a surprise.
There you've got the word from a constitutional scholar who appeared on behalf of the Democrats. And he says, the Democrats did what they did, but until they hit send, he's not impeached.
Well, that's true. Until you send your term paper in, you haven't sent it into the professor. I mean, so the banner right here should read Trump actually not impeached.
Actually not. So who's been saying there's an asterisk next to his presidency, been celebrating his impeachment, including Nancy Pelosi. Noah Feldman is a professor at Harvard University. He's a Democrat. He is an expert. He was calling for impeachment years before the Ukraine call. And here we are now with him saying that Democrats have skipped town.
The president has not been impeached.
Interesting. Maybe Nancy has some buyer's remorse.
Maybe.
Or maybe they don't know what they're doing.
Well, I know.
So one more part. So I read the entire op-ed from Noah Feldman, and from how they took it from here, there's one more part that they neglected to look at. Noah Feldman goes on to say, the Constitution does not say how fast our articles must go to the Senate. Crazy, it's been like 2 days. Some modest delay is not inconsistent with the Constitution or how both chambers usually work. Man, they didn't say that part. I wonder why.
Yeah, I hear you. And so I want to give you that context and nuance first, and then say that it doesn't really matter because Pelosi's 100% bungling this. And I think it's the wrong strategy, and it's leading to this, and it's confusing the hell out of people. So on the technicalities, the House, Noah Feldman explains, the House has voted to impeach. In his opinion, he isn't impeached, that's the past tense, until the articles go to the Senate. But so they have already voted to impeach, but he has not been impeached until it goes to the Senate. But that's his theory. Now he's a scholar, and it's a good and interesting theory. I don't necessarily even disagree. But it is a unique theory. I don't mean unique that nobody else holds it. I mean that it's creative, let's put it that way. Because that's not what the Constitution says. The Constitution does not say you must send it over the Senate, otherwise you are not impeached. It just says the House impeaches and the Senate convicts. That's it. And the House has the whole authority to impeach, which it could actually be literally interpreted as he's already impeached because the House has sole authority on that. And the Senate has sole authority on conviction. So you know what, as I said it out loud, I don't agree with Noah Feldman. Yes, he's a bigger scholar than I am on it. But the fact that we're even having this conversation shows you part of the reason why Pelosi's wrong on her political strategy. I'll get back to that.
I disagree. I think her strategy is great because I know exactly when she's going to deliver those articles of impeachment. Christmas morning, come on. That is such a good move. Come on, Pelosi, Nancy, I know you watch TYT. Christmas morning, baby. You might, after morning mass, you send them over, open it up, just, that's beautiful. I think that's great. But I do, this is leading me to be like, wait, what? Wait, huh? I think it is leading to a little bit more confusion than it needs to, especially when we know what most likely will happen, even if the Senate has already made up its mind. But I do think though that like Noah Feldman and Fox and Friends and Laura are picking up on this technicality that is also ridiculous. Like, it's like when you win, like when you have one more card in Uno, but you are about to say Uno, but you don't say it yet. Like that's what's going on right. They're about to say Uno.
Yeah, that's such a great analogy.
Just like,
right, does anyone?
No, you didn't say it. Okay, pick up a card, pick up another impeachment.
Yeah, how long is that delay supposed to be? So I mean, I guess the question becomes: does anyone believe that she's not going to at all? I don't think that.
No, there's some chance
indefinitely. And then what reason would that be? Especially since this has become a needling process, where Mitch McConnell will say something that's senseless and say, this is what we're gonna do because I said so. And then no matter how blatantly against normalcy it is, he'll do it anyway because he wants to either needle someone or change the narrative. She's attempting to flip it back on its head. The problem with that is, and I'm seeing what you're saying a little bit, Cenk. The problem with that is that most people aren't watching it as closely as those of us are. So when they hear that she's delaying it, they'll go, well, I thought she liked it. And that's where Republicans can pounce in and say crazy things. Let's hear what Trump had to say about it.
Tell us, what does it feel like to be the third president in US history to be impeached?
Well, I don't feel like I'm being impeached because it's a hoax, it's a setup, it's a horrible thing they did. They happened to have a small majority and they took that small majority and they forced people. And they said, oh, I watched Pelosi out there saying, oh no, we don't want to talk to anybody. They put the arm on everybody. They tried to get them to do what they had to do. Many of those people were like Jeff, where they didn't want to vote that way. But it doesn't feel, to me, it doesn't feel like impeachment. Last night I said it, and I'll tell you, I was up there and I was thinking about it. I actually said it. It doesn't feel like impeachment.
It doesn't feel like impeachment. So the White House overall took this narrative, and they would, well, also as part of another Bloomberg article, will point out the approach now the White House is taking. Maybe they listened to Laura Ingram's show, maybe they watched Fox and Friends this morning, but they have a different approach now. Lawyers close to the president are exploring whether the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's decision to temporarily withhold articles of impeachment from the Senate could mean that the president hasn't actually been impeached. Where'd they get that idea from? The argument is part of an effort by the White House and Senate Republicans to maximize their leverage as lawmakers debate when and how to conduct a trial on charges that the president abused his power to solicit an investigation. And we know the rest of that happened with Joe Biden. So it's become a political game of which way you can get the public to view what's happening. Nancy Pelosi is betting that they're gonna go her way, and the president and the White House are betting that it'll go their way.
Yeah.
As usual. So it's a matter of who can get this to not seem as confusing to people who aren't paying attention 100% of the time.
No, I know, but that's totally the Democrats' fault because look, the guy committed 5 different crimes, but instead of charging him with crimes, which is in the Constitution, high crimes and misdemeanors, including one of the ones he committed, bribery. It's one of the very few crimes listed in the Constitution. You could say bribery for the quid pro quo. You could say campaign finance violations for asking a foreign government for assistance for the hush money payments, and I can go on, and I have. But instead of doing that, they made it vague, an abuse of power. And now I see all over the reaction online, including from independents, going, oh, I guess he didn't commit a crime. Damn it! God, they're so bad at this. The Democrats, that's giant problem number 1. Giant problem number 2 is when they don't send it, it sends the optics of, oh, their case must be weak. They're so worried about their case, they're not even sending it to the Senate. No, send it, hashtag send it. So, and then now the third problem, for what? Well, what's the play here? And this is what I said on day 1. So, and now it's playing out. Schumer and Pelosi are trying to negotiate with Mitch McConnell on witnesses. And he said, well, I want some witnesses and et cetera. And of course, the Republicans then turn around and go, wait a minute, you control the House, you had all this time to call any witness you like, why didn't you call them? So because now the Democrats are trying to get Bolton and Mulvaney and they didn't call them, and they're trying to get them called in the Senate. And the Republicans go, why would we do that? You didn't even call them. Now, I know why, don't get me wrong, that's stuck in the courts, but they're not going to win that argument. And it makes them look more weak, more ineffectual, which then leads to Mitch McConnell saying this, quote, I admit, I'm not sure what leverage there is in refraining from sending us something we do not want. Alas, if they can figure that out, they can explain. And it pains me deeply to say this. McConnell is right about that. What leverage do you have? It's like, oh, so you don't want to impeach the president? Great. Deal, we don't impeach him. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, Jayar. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.